The people absolutely is key, right? I mean, the company is nothing but a collection of people. So if you have the right people and you're going after trying to solve the pain in the market, so there's a need for what you're doing, then it's all about having the right people, having clarity, and just enabling them to do their best, right? Collaborate and execute and get stuff done.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we look at enabling collaboration. The world's changing. You probably feel this. We want people to collaborate, but we've got to enable collaboration. And some of this is technology. Some of this is just being more intentional about how we engage together. And part of it is leadership providing space to people in unstructured environments and unstructured meetings. I know that goes against all of the normal rules, but we're going to tell you exactly what we mean inside today's special interview with CEO and founder of RevolutionParts. We're here with Ibrahim Mesbah. He is a 6-time Inc. 5000 winner or honoree, and we talk about enabling collaboration, what they've learned. It's always, in the journey of this. So we're going to, kind of peek into the middle of how he's enabling collaboration with technology, how he's doing it with creating space for people to communicate with each other outside of the agendas and the meetings that we typically have. And all of that is discussed inside this episode. My job is to bring you the best content I can to help you be the leader that your people deserve. My hope is that you have everything that you need to grow beyond where you are right now. I talk to a lot of leaders who, if they're really honest with me, they tell me that they could lead more powerfully. They could communicate better. They could empower people or hold them more accountable. They could stop being reactive and be more patient. And a lot of these things are the part of what we do with executive coaching. But one of the special things that we offer recently is how do we put coaching in the hands of your managers? And here's the simple question. Are you investing in your people so that they grow their skills, whether it be hard skills, soft skills, leadership skills? Well, I believe you should be investing in your people the right way. And if you have any kind of question about what the path is forward, where you stand, I have so many tools and models that we could use. I've been doing this for over a decade, and I'd love to share them with you. All you have to do is reach out to me, genehammett.com, schedule a call. We'll go through the performance or leadership performance audit, get the name right, where we look at 6 different dials and how you rank yourself with your team and see what your leadership delta is. These are specific tools that I use inside my coaching just to help you understand where you are, but also to give you some insight about how to move forward. All that inside of that first phone call that we have. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to give you more clarity, more confidence about who you are as a leader and where you're going to shore up the gaps, if you will, as you continue to grow your company. All you have to do is go to genehammett.com, schedule your call. Love to talk to you now. So now here's the interview with Ibrahim. Ibrahim, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Gene?
Fantastic. We're going to have a great conversation. Before we dive in today, I'd love for you to share with us about RevolutionParts.
Cool, thanks. So RevolutionParts is an e-commerce platform for auto parts, and we cater exclusively to franchise dealers and brands. It's a turnkey platform that they can use to sell parts and accessories online across channels. So it could be on their branded web store or one of the marketplaces, eBay, Amazon, Walmart.com. And we started the company in 2014, bootstrapped to over $10 million in revenue, did around COVID with an auto tech investor. And today our platform serves about 2,000 franchise dealerships and a few larger brands that we work directly with in the US and Canada. And the platform, our customers sell, our platform powers over $600 million in online part sales on an annual basis.
Impressive. I was on the cutting edge of e-commerce in 1999.
Okay.
I'm not sure how old you are. I know you're younger than me, but I was aching to get inside the internet world and e-commerce specifically because I saw where things were going. And we had a platform. We had, we raised a ton of money, and the dot-com crash hit us
Yeah.
before we were able to exit, but it was an incredible time period to work with brands who were not prepared to sell anything online. I had conversations like, do you have pictures of your products? Do you have descriptions that we can put online, or are they just internal words? That's how early I was inside this space. I'm kind of curious. You've been on this journey of e-commerce with the market. Where do you think e-commerce goes from here?
I think it continues to so it continues to grow, right? Is the short answer. So what we saw during COVID is a lot more people embraced online shopping. So there was a big shift where you couldn't really, for example, in our world, go down to the dealership. So a lot of consumers were comfortable going online even for the first time and shopping for big things like a car, right? We saw a very similar spike in demand during the COVID years for parts and accessories, right? So I think, a lot of people have tried it for the first time or tried it more than they usually have in the past before COVID. And, and now expectations are much higher, right, from a service level perspective. So we believe that that trend's going to continue and we'll see growth in e-commerce.
I still can't believe people go to stores. They're so easy to buy things online and to search and like compare, and just like the ease of it is, maybe I'm in a different world in my life, but I really respect what you guys have done. Making the ink list 6 times is not easy to do. I'm a math person. I went to Georgia Tech as an engineer, and there's a lot of math inside of this. It just gets harder and harder. What has been the thing that is so important for you guys as a culture to be able to continue this kind of growth?
Yeah, so and I agree. I mean, we're very proud to have made the list 6 times, and we're hoping we continue to stay on that list. It takes a lot of discipline, right? So I'm a first-time founder, and so is Andreas, my co-founder. We're both engineers by trade. So frankly, we weren't thinking, let's tell a story, get somebody to give us money and fund this. So the way we kind of bootstrapped Revolution Parts is by doing a lot of consulting and having that consulting dollars fund product development, right? And eventually we stopped doing consulting and just did Revolution Parts. But we spent a lot of time really planning and setting goals. And we had I think we hired somebody from Goldman Sachs to build us a pretty complex model where you could put in a lot of assumptions and see how that translates on the P&L and cash flow and growth and burn and all that stuff, right? So we ran a pretty tight ship right out the gate until we raised money, right? And I think that gave us the culture and foundation to really think big, which is one of our values, and really put plans in place and follow through.
I want to go back to the people. Like, you wouldn't be here without it. You said you're a first-time founder, but how important has it been to have your people collaborate the way they do today in order to create the platform you've built?
So the people absolutely is key, right? I mean, the company is nothing but a collection of people. So if you have the right people and you're going after trying to solve the pain in the market, so there's a need for what you're doing, then it's all about having the right people, having clarity, and just enabling them to do their best, right? Collaborate and execute and get stuff done. So yeah, we were very fortunate to be able to convince a lot of really good people to join us, right, in our early days. And a lot of those people are still with us still today and are still energized, even though it's been, 9 years. And startup world's a lot of ups and downs, right? But we still feel and believe that we're scratching the surface, and the opportunity is massive, which helps with motivation, right? And excitement and energy levels, because startups are really hard, as you know, right? So energy matters. Collaboration is energizing too, when you're collaborating with people in person, but we've also learned how to do that remotely, right?
Let's unpack that a little bit, because I know that a lot of companies right now are missing the fact that everyone used to be sort of side by side, and there used to be different kinds of ways to engage with each other, to collaborate. And it's a little bit harder. It requires intentionality, maybe even requires technology that I know you guys have embraced. So when you think about enabling collaboration, what is it that you think is allowed that to happen?
So what I would say is it's still a work in progress. Let me just start with that, right? And what we've also seen, so when COVID happened, we were in office, right? I think every once in a while people will take a day and work from home, but we were largely working out of the Phoenix office. We had about 15 or 20 employees that were remote. And when all of a sudden everybody had to go home, we had to really learn how to embrace and enable remote collaboration. And we use a few tools to make that easier, but it's a lot of right. So, for example, we use Slack, which has gotten much better over the years, and you can very quickly, with a click, start a huddle with one or more people. So tools like that. We use Atlassian product suites pretty heavily, Jira, Confluence. We use Trainual for onboarding, since we started onboarding a lot of remote people, but it's even great for people who are onboarding in Phoenix here, because we had to build a lot of modules on company vision, and then a lot of departmental modules. We use a tool called Bonusly that we use to reinforce our values and recognize each other. We use a tool called Office Vibe for Pulse. So we've had to very quickly leverage a lot of software products or technology to really enable this, but it also has to be an intentional thing from teams and leadership to really create space for people to come together, even right and brainstorm and collaborate, because I think we do our best when, frankly, there is no fixed agenda, right? It's like, here's space, we know there's a problem, how do we solve it, right? So it's something that we're still working on. What we've seen for sure is it took us a while and we're still making progress on this, but the pace of delivering great products, that has slowed down a little bit because we had to change how we work, right? So we did see a lot of things get lost in translation or missed, or people that weren't included that should have been included. So what we had to do is also communicate and over communicate and really set very clear ownership, like know who owns what, right? So that we're not just focusing on loops in the chain, but the end-to-end chain has to come together, right? So it's a communication. We had to really reinforce communication and collaboration through technology and other avenues.
Ibrahim, one of the things you just said there was actually against what a lot of people talk about. And even I've said this too, in meetings, you should have an agenda, and don't show up to meetings without an agenda. One of my mentors had said, no agenda, no attenda was his kind of phrase.
Yeah.
But you just said some of the best results we've gotten is when we gather with no fixed agenda. How did you discover that?
So, we had an offsite last year where we flew in everybody in our team, right? And I think where the mind starts to wander, right, is when people are hanging out, maybe having snacks or beer, and that's when people go, "Huh, that issue that we've been kind of dealing with for a while, have we considered doing X, Y, and Z?" Right? So essentially, what we realize is all we've done is really create some space and bring people together. Right, they're aware of the issues, so everybody wants to win, right? So that's something we all have in common. And the mind starts to wander because there isn't. Sometimes a lot of meetings are all right. There's a very fixed agenda, and there isn't space to really ponder and think, right, and digest and come up with creative solutions, right? A lot of people say they come up with ideas in the shower. Well, this is sort of like that, except that you're sitting on the couch, maybe with having a drink or snacks with a few coworkers. So I guess they're unstructured meetings, right? So creating that space, I think that's when mind starts to wander and people start to really think about those problems in the back of their mind and go, "Huh, have we considered this? Did you think about this?" Whereas I think the time pressure of these meetings, when you set up a 30 or 60-minute meeting with an agenda, you're going to get like off the cuff solutions, and less of the pondering and the what ifs, which is what I think we lose when we don't create that space, right? So the challenge is, how do you create that space when we're not all in the same physical location, right? And technology has to be one of those answers, right?
Now, Abraham's been talking about giving people a chance for their minds to be more collaborative. And really it is about space. We don't get to structure brainstorming and collaboration. It doesn't fit into 15-minute meeting cycles the way we'd like to. It's a little bit more freeform. Now, I work with a lot of companies that will say the words, if you don't have an agenda, there's no attendance. And for 99% of the meetings out there, that makes a lot of sense. But there's a little bit of space inside of our world where we should be collaborating. And maybe the agenda is, let's just look at some of the challenges we have from different perspectives. Let's look at the solutions at which we're, the path we're on, and try to find new perspectives. Is this truly the right way? And asking some very different kinds of questions that allow new thinking to happen. I really believe these kind of unstructured meetings will allow your team to think at a different level and allow you to come up with better decisions, better judgment, and all that happens in times when you don't necessarily have an agenda. Back to Ibrahim. I love that you guys have embraced multiple platforms, because there's not one platform that does all of the collaboration for you. And I also believe, I think this is a part of collaboration, is learning to collaborate asynchronously. I have no idea where you are with this, but I see this as a different new challenge that's emerging as we have some remote people, some people are still in the office. Are you guys embracing asynchronous collaboration?
We are, and we're trying to reinforce it and do it more. It's kind of funny. I have this mug. I don't know if you could see it. Probably not.
I can't see it.
Okay,
So
it
read it to
basically
us.
says I survived another meeting that should have been an email.
That's a good one that's been going around for a while.
Yeah. So it's something that, I need to keep reinforcing with the team, but there's a little bit of magic and need to make a decision, right? So one option is, well, we have this problem, let's pull 5 people in a room and talk about it. What you end up with is a bunch of action items, and different people have to connect async or think about it, right? So async collaboration has been pretty effective, where people actually put their thoughts on paper, recommendations, and now you send this document out to the same 4 or 5 people and say, please read this, add comments, reflect on it. And then you could get in a meeting and make decisions pretty quickly, right? So productivity goes way up because people can really take the time to read through it, digest it, think about their thoughts, collaborate async, right? And we end up making better decisions that way, right? And it forces people to really think through the issue and some of these recommendations and how it impacts other parts of the org or the customer, right? So it's something that we've started doing actively and we'll be doing a lot more of because it's been pretty successful.
We've been talking about asynchronous meetings, and one of the tools we use in our own company is just Google Documents. Now, you can use any platform you want. I have no stock inside of this, or I get paid nothing to recommend any of the technologies. We don't take sponsorship here, but I do want to say that we use a simple tool for collaboration asynchronously, which is Google Documents. And it looks a lot like this. The documents have whatever the data is that we need to make a decision, and some of the things that we're thinking, and people are able to review that in their own time before the meeting. And they're able to comment on it. They're able to really take things to a deeper level before we actually get in the meeting. Because the first time you hear a topic, or you don't want to just know a little bit about it. You want to have some thought around it. So asynchronous types of engagement for collaboration will help you. So enabling collaboration through Google Documents is just one example. I would encourage you to explore this as you are putting together this for your teams. I do this with my teams. Hopefully you find some value in doing it for yours as well. Back to the interview with Ibrahim. Ibrahim, I really want to ask you this about leadership, because we've been talking about collaboration and some of the tools, but what has evolved in your own leadership that has allowed this to adapt to the way people are working over the last couple of years?
So so when COVID hit, we've also started hiring people outside of the Phoenix area, right? So having more written communication is just part of scaling any company. If you're scaling beyond one location or beyond a certain number of people, you can't wrap your arms around the team and really make sure you have complete alignment and understanding of where we're headed and what needs to change, et cetera, right? So one thing that's evolved is just the need to really communicate more in writing and reinforce the values, the mission, the priorities, and also how the company's doing. Like, we're very transparent with our financials every month, right? Our CFO gets up and talks about, all right, here's our budget, here's what went well, here's where we missed, here's the numbers and takeaways, right? So everybody really understands where we're headed and how what they're doing day to day translates to helping the company win, right? So I'd say, more in writing communication, more transparency on stand-ups, embracing technology and tools. We've had to do a lot more of that since we're more distributed and more remote now, right?
I want to ask you, because I know recently you mentioned investing in a coach, and you've got a board, and you're not my client, which is not the reason why I do these shows, is to highlight success stories of clients. And in fact, very few clients have been on the show. But I will tell you, I'm curious about the real value that you have. You mentioned talking about having someone to talk to about preparing for the board with your coach. How do you use that relationship to become a better leader?
So a lot of people say being a CEO is, I think you have to be a CEO to have the same perspective, which I know you do too, right? But it is true, right, that you're in a position where you can't really, you have to keep your team energized, you have to keep your board energized and confident, right? So when things are not going well, or when I personally need help with as a leader, how do I approach this? Here's a struggle, right? So being able to tap into somebody that's walked the path before and has made a lot of mistakes and has learned a lot that could help guide that has been pretty impactful and helpful for me as a CEO, right? So we connect a couple of times a month. He reviews board decks before they're presented. He helps interview executives. He helps push us a little bit, right? Like when we're presenting plans, he goes, why are you not thinking bigger? Or have you considered this or org design? So it's been an incredible help for me to be able to talk to somebody like that and really get their insights and helps. And here's what works, here's what didn't, or here's what I recommend you do. And a lot of those conversations sometimes can't really be had with people on the team or the boards. So it's a great a resource or a person to turn to and be able to get that help, right?
Ibrahim, I really appreciate you being here, sharing your wisdom, sharing your thoughts on enabling collaboration using technology, but also just sharing how you see leadership as your company has evolved. And you guys have continuously been on the Inc. 5000. Really impressive. So I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Wow, what a great interview. I love talking to people who don't have everything quite figured out, but they're willing to share what they do know and what's working, and it's always evolving. To me, this is the nature of leadership today. It's not going to stay the same, from decade to decade to decade. Just as technology's, moving faster, so is the need for adaptation and evolution within our companies. My hope is that you are evolving as a leader faster than the pace at which you expect your company to grow, because that's necessary. If you have any questions about that, I'd love to partner with you and your team to grow the leadership skills and the confidence and effectiveness to really lead a higher level of performance. If you have any questions about that, just go to genehammett.com and schedule your call today. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, with courage. See you next time.